What is up, mathletes? Welcome back to the episode of Math with Dr. Math. And today, we're going to be looking at those circles. But first, a word from our sponsors. What do you mean we don't have any sponsors? Alright, mathletes, so let's go ahead and do a deep dive into a little homework assignment that I created so that we can look at the ideas revolving around circles. Alright, so again, if you haven't done so, you know the drill. Where's my thumbs up, squad? Smash that like button. Alright, we're trying to reach as many people as possible, and we want to thank you for helping get the word out, because now Dr. Math is all over the world. Exciting stuff, right? So again, I want to thank you guys. All right, so let's get down to work here. So question number 1, is this point right here on the circle? And they give us the equation of a circle, and this right here is in standard form. All right, and we'll talk about that in a few seconds here. So what we're gonna do is, notice they give us an X and a Y, so all we're gonna do is we're gonna plug it in, and it better equal 36 if this point is actually on this circle. All right, and what's awesome is the more you understand these circles, you're gonna see that this is actually the center of the circle, so it's not actually on the circle. So this shouldn't work, but let's go ahead and plug it in. All right, so wherever we see an X, right, I'm not talking about your X, wherever we see an X, we're gonna go ahead and plug in a 4, and then wherever we see a Y, we're gonna plug in 11. All right, and we're simply gonna do the math. And as many of you guys are seeing, on the left-hand side, everything cancels out. So you're left with 0, right? And I don't know where that 0 came from, right? We said it was 36. Some of you, I heard you yelling at the screen, Dr. Math, you're crazy, all right? So this is supposed to be 36. So on this side, everything cancels out, and it equals 36. So this brings us to a great point of always check your work, right? You want to make sure that whatever you have here, you copy it down exactly the same. Have you been there? Have you copied down some numbers wrong and then it gave you a headache and you're wondering what you did wrong? Smash that like button if you feel me, mathletes. I know you feel me, right? Go ahead and subscribe too while you're at it. So does that equal 36? Heck no, right? So that tells us it's not on the circle. So just like we predicted, right? This point is not on the circle. When is it on the circle? If our equation was true, right? If we had like 36 equals 36, then we would say, yeah, that point lies on the circle. All right, so that's how you're gonna handle those types of questions. All right, so what I want you to do, mathletes, comment down below. You're gonna put Q2 for question 2, and you're gonna put yes or no. Is this point on the circle? So plug it in and let us know in the comments. All right, so let's move on to question 3 here. And I'm only gonna do 8 questions. If we get enough likes, maybe we'll do 4 more bonus features, all right? So determine the radius and the center and the radius of this circle right here. Excuse me. And what I did here is, one thing that's so important in math is whenever you're dealing with shape, or they give you some words you're unfamiliar with, go in and look them up. And in this case, since they tell us we're dealing with a circle, then write down everything you know about a circle. And here, this is a formula of a circle in standard form. So again, I know when I would get lost in problems, most of the time is they'll give us a word, and these are clues that they're giving us. So make sure you go in and investigate and write down everything you know about, what they're giving you. Because in these problems, they're always going to give you everything you need, but you have to do your job. And if you don't know, go and find out, those little extra details, right? Super important right there. So they tell us we're dealing with a circle. So I went ahead and I wrote down the equation of a circle. All right, so with that said, what I want you to do is H and K here, H and K, what they represent, H and K, that's the ugliest cat, right? Let me rewrite that. And I'm gonna edit that out for me. And H and K, that's the center, right? That's our center of the circle. And if you notice, whatever H is, you're gonna take the opposite sign. So here, see how it's -6, right? So we're gonna take the opposite sign, right? Because of that negative, and our x value is just going to be 6. Here we're going to take the opposite sign of k. So here, since it was a negative 2, our k is going to be 2. So you're always taking the opposite of these. All right, so write that down. A lot of people get confused. So our center of this circle is 6, 2. All right, huge note. And the radius, right? The radius is going to be some number squared. But notice they give us 81. So what we need to do is we need to take the square root of 81, which in this case is 9. Because I could rewrite this 81 as 9 squared, as, right, which is the radius squared. So the radius here, let me write this down, r equals 9. So again, when they don't give it to you in this format, something being squared, right, then you're going to take the square root of this number, and that number being squared, that 9, is your radius. All right, so let me write another one just to make sure you understand. So let's say our problem, this is a brand new problem, I'll call it like 3b. Let's say we have x plus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4, right? So the center, we said, is the opposite. So our center is negative 5, right? We take the opposite of 5 and positive 3, right? Because we take the opposite of that negative 3. And then the radius is the square root of 4, which is just 2. So just another example to make sure you mathletes are getting your money's worth, right? So again, that deserves a big old like right there. So number 4. All right, notice this isn't in the exact format we want, right? It doesn't look exactly like this. So what we could do is we could manipulate it a little bit, right? We could be creative so that it looks like this. And we do this so much in math, right? And it's a lot of the things that the other channels, they don't do, right? They don't give you the strategies. They're like, here's the answer, here's the answer, here's the answer. But what's so important is how you have to think about it, right? Because math is all about changing your thinking and making you more creative, right? Because there's not just one way of solving a problem, and that's the beauty of it. So here what we're gonna do is I'm gonna rewrite this as x plus 0. So if I add 0, have I changed anything? Absolutely not, right? And the same thing, if I add 0 to y, in the same way I could have subtracted 0, right? So we could have put minus 0 if we wanted, and that equals 28. So just because it's written in this format, now it's easier for you to see that the center is at 0, 0, and our radius is the square root of 28. And then if you want, you could break that down, right? You could rationalize this. The 28, that's really the square root of 4 times the square root of 7, right? 4 times 7 is 28. I know the square root of 4, so I could break it down more, right? And again, if you want more help on how to break down these radicals, let us know, all right? We have a video called Simplifying Radicals that'll really help you out. All right, mathletes, are we good so far? Woohoo! Perfect. Follow me to the next page. All right, so let's look at question number 5 here. And again, I just want to show you that it doesn't matter if we have fractions or all kinds of ugly numbers, the rules stay the same. Sometimes when people see fractions, they freak out and they forget everything they learned. So again, the rules always stay the same. So we're going to take the opposite of this sign, the opposite of this sign, because it's in standard form. So it's 1/5 is our x value of the center, and negative 5/6 for the y value, because we're taking the opposite signs, right? That's what the formula tells us. What do we do with this? Perfect. You heard the person behind you? That was kind of creepy, but they were right. You take the square root of 16 over 81. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 81 is 9. All right? So it's that easy. Hopefully we're feeling comfortable with this stuff. All right? You feeling good? All right. I'm feeling good too. All right. Let me group all this because I don't want it following me. All right. Here we go. Question 6. So given a circle with the center, so now they're telling the center is -6, -5. all right, and they tell us the radius is 1. So check this out. If we write down the formula, and I have people always ask me, do I have to write down the formula every time? And this is what I tell them. You write down the formula until you have it in here, right? Once you have it in here, then you don't have to write it down. Until then, you write it down every single time, and those few extra seconds are gonna pay huge down the road, right? And that's the way life works. You do a little bit of things right now, and they're gonna pay off huge later on, right? You go into school and being educated, right? You might feel it sucks right now, but later on, it's gonna change your life just like it did for Dr. Math, right? So always do the little decisions, because later on, man, they pay off huge, all right? So let's go with this. So here's our X value, and here's our Y value. So let's just plug these bad boys in. Bad boys, what you want, what you want. All right, so you didn't know you're gonna get some music in here. And then we got Y minus Y, which was -5. So again, notice how I'm very careful with, and our radius is 1, my parentheses, because what a lot of people do when these are negative, they just put 6 here. They're like, oh, there's a negative. But you gotta put that -6, because those negatives are gonna cancel each other out. So that's another pro tip for you. Be careful with that, all right? So if I simplify this, I get x plus 6 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals 1. So this is my circle in standard form right there, all right? And if I had to graph it, let's take a look at our graph. I think I already did this for us on our next page. So remember, the center, when we graph it, is going to be centered at -6, -5. So that's going to be our point. And then our radius is 1. So we're going to go up 1, make a point. Down 1, make a point. Left 1, right 1, and then connect all those, right? So let's check it out. So here, let me zoom into the circle that I drew. All right. So notice the circle that I drew is right here at -6. I went down 5. There's my dot. And I just went up 1, left 1, right 1, right 1, down 1, and then connect all those dots to create your circle. All right. So again, drawing this isn't hard. It's just, if you're doing it by hand, your circles might get a little messy, but that's all good, right? All right, gang. So let's go to number 7. Let me group all this, and let's move to number 7. All right, this is where things get good. All right. So the endpoints. So they're giving us the endpoints of a diameter, all right, of a circle are 1, -6 and 7, 2. All right. So if they give us the diameter, the endpoints, then what we can do, right, if they give us a circle and they give us the endpoints, is we can find the distance from here to here. And since these are the endpoints of a diameter, that means it's going through the center. So once we find that distance, if we take half of it, that gives us the radius that we need. All right. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to use this distance formula, because we want to know how far is it from this point to this point. And that's going to give us the diameter. But we know for our standard form of the circle, right? Let's write it down so you don't forget. And again, you write it down over and over until you don't need to. So x minus h squared, and h is just a number, a variable that someone picked. You don't have to use h, you can use whatever you want, right? And then y minus k squared equals r squared. So notice our equation says we need to know the radius, right? We need to know the radius. But this, when we find the distance, it's going to give us the diameter. And remember the relationship between the diameter and the radius. If you have the diameter, what you need to do is divide it by 2 in order to get your radius. So again, I always want you to explore the formulas that you need to get the information that they're looking for, right? And that takes a little bit of work. And again, it's just practice. So don't expect everything to be crystal clear the first attempt, right? This is the whole point of math. We're practicing, we're practicing, we're practicing. All right, so let's find the distance. I'll call this x1, y1, x2, y2. So we're gonna find the distance between those 2 points. All right, And we got to do that before lunch because I'm hungry. So we got x2, which is 7 minus 1 squared, plus y2, which is 2 minus negative 6. All right, don't forget those signs, right? Those signs will come back and haunt you, right? So again, if it's getting too hot in the kitchen, be careful. So we're left with the square root of 6 squared plus 2 minus negative 6. That's positive 8, right? Because a negative and negative turns into a positive. So we get positive 8 squared. And so we end up with the square root of 36 plus 64. 36 plus 64, that's 100. And we should be smiling because that's a nice number. We know the square root of 100, right? We're talking about distance, so we're going to use the positive 10. All right, so there's our diameter. So our diameter is 10. So if we want the radius, we just take half of that, which is 5. So now we know, boom, with the radiuses. So our radius is 5. So if you wanted to draw the circle, right, you could draw these 2 points, right? And then what you could also do is find the middle, which is the midpoint of this diameter, right? Because if you find that point right smack in the middle, that's your radius. And that's what we need to do, that's our center. And that's what we need to do to find x and k, right? We need to go and find our center, right? So again, if you want more practice with that distance formula, click the link below. I have a video that shows you how to do that, how to find the distance, and it shows you how to find the midpoint, which was what we're going to do right now. So we're going to find the midpoint, and what you do for the midpoint is this. You take your x values, which is the 1 and the 7, you add them and divide them by 2, right? So the 1 and the 7, you add them, and that's going to give you 8. And then you divide it by 2, and that gives you 4. So this is going to be the x-coordinate of the center, right? And we're going to do the same thing with the y. I'll call it ym and xm. So you know that's the midpoint, but really it's giving us the center, all right? And then we have negative 6 plus 2 divided by 2. And this gives us negative 4 over 2, which gives us negative 2. So our center, right, the center of this is 4, negative 2. And what's awesome is that if you were to actually graph this, right, if you were to actually graph this and then graph these 2 points, you would see that this point falls right smack in the middle, all right, which is good news. All right, so now we know the center. Let me label it. All right, there's our center, and then we want our radius, which is right here, 5, and now we plug everything in to this equation right here. So let's go ahead, and we got x minus 4 squared plus y minus k. What's our k? Negative 2. So I'm going to put plus 2 because it's the opposite sign, and that's going to equal r squared, and our radius is 5. So 5 squared is 25. So again, if you need more practice in using the midpoint formula, that video below will hook you up, and I go slower, right? Because right now, what we're assuming is that you already seen all this. But if you haven't, go watch those videos, and that'll make this a lot more clear. But hopefully this is making sense, mathletes. All right. And then we graph this. So what we would do is, let's see if I could move our graph. Let me shrink this a little bit just so I could use the graph above. All right. So if I were to graph this, I would go to 4, negative 2. Let me use a different color. 4, negative 2 down here. So I made a point, right? I'm up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up 5, make a point, down 5, make a point, right 5, left 5, and then make my circle. All right, it's that easy. All right, so I'll let you mathletes do that, and we'll move on to our next question. Follow me. All right, so our last question that we're going to do together, it's asking us, given a circle where the center, it gives us the center at -6, -6, and another point on the circle is -3, -2. So notice they're giving us a point right in the middle, smack in the middle, and then they give us another point on that circle. So again, they give us a point. I'm just gonna pretend this is the point, and then they give us a point on the circle, right? So say they give us this point. I'm just, making this up. So that distance there, right? If we found the distance, that distance would represent the radius. So it would be nice as they give you this information, right? Draw a sketch, because a sketch is going to be very helpful in determining, what are they really giving us here? So again, do as, just like if you were to write an essay, you want to write down a rough draft, right? So when they give you information, jot that information down, and that's really going to help you see the bigger picture, all right? And again, the reason I make it look easy because I've done this for years, right? So if this is your first time or even your second time, it's going to take you a lot of times to get comfortable with this. So don't get discouraged, mathletes, right? You're on the right track. All right, and if it's making your brain hurt, right, you're growing those muscles right there. So don't shy away from it. Say, bring it on. All right, so what are we going to do here? We first need to find this distance. And in this case, the distance is going to represent the radius, right? Because when we're writing the circle in standard form, make sure you understand what you need, right? You're going to need the center. All right, that's what I'm doing here. We're going to need the center. And then you're going to need the radius. All right, so the center, they already gave it to us, right? -6, -6. That's what we're going to put here and here. So let's go ahead and let's find the radius. How do you find the radius? Boom, the distance formula. Because we have to know the distance between those 2 points. All right, so if you haven't done so, smash that like button, right? We're waiting for you. So let's use that distance formula and let's plug in these points, mathletes. So we got the square root. I'll call this x1, x2. The order doesn't matter, but as long as you stay consistent, y1, y2. So if you called this x1, this would have to be y2. If you called this x2, this would have to be y2. That's what I mean by staying consistent. All right, so here we go. x2 minus x1, -2 minus -6, right? Be careful with your signs. We square that. And y2 minus y1. Where's my y1? There you are. All right. And so let's do some math here. So we get the square root. We're going to end up with -3 plus 6. So we get 3 squared plus -2 plus 6, right? Because the negative and the negative. So we end up with 4 squared. So again, be careful with all the signs. It's so easy to make a little mistake. All right, so we got 3 squared, which is 9. And then we got 4 squared, which is 16. Add those up and you got the square root of 25. And thank goodness we have a nice number right there, right? So our radius, which happens to be the distance between those 2 points, is 5. So let's go ahead and plug everything in. So we got x minus our center. So we got plus 6 squared, plus we got y minus our y value here of our center. So that's going to change our sign. So we're going to have y plus 6 squared, and that equals 5 squared, which is 25. So again, let's just check this real fast. Our center is -6, right? We take the opposite, -6. That matches exactly what we said. And then we take this radius and we square it, and it gives us the 25. So this represents the equation of this circle described here. All right, mathletes. So again, in this section, there's so many little ideas, and I just wanted to give you a variety here and really help you understand the big picture. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to do us a huge favor. Smash the like button. We're chasing 1,000, and maybe, hopefully by the time you're watching this, we're already way past 1,000. All right, mathletes, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Peace. All right, mathletes, thanks for watching. And again, if you like this video, we have some other videos that we think you might enjoy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.